Hey Max, welcome to Carpool with Trey. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, man. We were talking about the Kung Fu and martial arts and MMA and all that kind of self-defense, I would say.
Yeah.
For people who are watching or listening, self-defense technique.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever got into a fight? Let me tell you that. Let me ask you that.
No, I haven't. So
No?
thankfully, I mean, martial arts. I mean, there's a lot of different teaching philosophies, but a common theme is, the best self-defense is avoiding confrontation.
Yes.
Total. So just trying to keep a cool head about you, not looking for trouble, all that kind of stuff. So I've been doing a good job of that so far, I think.
So if you've been in a fight, I would say, well, I wouldn't say you've been in a fight, but let's just say if there is a fight happening in front of you,
Yeah.
would you just avoid going there, or what would you do?
Oh, I think I'd probably avoid. It's really hard to understand the context, of a fight you just kind of like see going on. You don't know who the people are. You don't know what the situation is. Sometimes it's best to just like avoid those things and use the police or something like that.
Of course.
Like call the police. It depends on the situation, but I think a big thing about martial arts is humility. So not trying to be a hero. Just trying to figure out what the right thing to do is.
That is very nice perspective, man. Doing these things will teach people a lot about controlling the power, because you can clearly break somebody's ass and beat their ass and break their bones and stuff like that if you have an opportunity to do that. So I'm sure you can do that, but
Yeah, maybe.
but avoiding it makes it more stronger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because knowing how much power you have in your hands and legs and everything you have, you can clearly damage someone's life.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But that is amazing, man, that you never got into these kind of things, and I'm glad that the view you have about controlling. And is this for every self-defense technique, or is that motto only works for the martial arts, or I would say Kung Fu?
I think if you're asking does every style work self-defense, yeah, I mean, it depends. It kind of depends on what the school teaches. It's really hard to learn self-defense without actually doing something like hand-to-hand and sparring. If you learn all the theoretical stuff like forms and kata, all that kind of stuff, that stuff's really cool theoretically speaking. But you really gotta spar with it to really turn it into the more martial aspect. But doing forms, it builds exercise. A really good way to become more martial is to just be more athletic. So at least forms do that. But unless you're sparring, unless you're practicing hand to hand, and you're really working through those sequences, it's really hard to develop any kind of sense of martiality. So if the style is teaching that, if the school, for whatever style it is really teaching hand to hand, then it matters a lot less what the style is, I think.
Okay. So I was gonna say, what does your school teaches you?
So our school does Northern Shaolin, which is Bei Shaolin Chen in Chinese, and it's one of so many styles. It's got a very complex, convoluted history that takes a lot of research to kind of understand. And that's something that I'm trying to study more and learn more about, kind of the lineage, all that kind of stuff. But one of the best ways I kind of tell people is if they've ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, firebending was based on our style.
Oh, okay.
And then water bending was based off Tai Chi, earth bending was based off Hungar, and airbending was based off Bagua, and those are all Chinese martial arts. So it's kind of fun because I can say I practice firebending basically.
Oh, okay.
So our style, we do we do our forms, you know, we do Neigong, which is like mind, body, spirit practice, and Qigong with like breath practice, which is an extension of Neigong, you know, and you know, a lot of like idiosyncrasies, a lot of complex things like that maybe, you know, people don't generally think about when they think about like martial arts, you know. But we also practice fighting, sparring. Lei Tai is what we practice generally, which is fighting on an elevated platform, you know, where you can like hit people but also throw them off the platform and score points like that. So it's pretty intense, actually.
Oh, okay. So how many styles you know?
Well, I know, so I started out doing karate, and now I've just been doing Northern Shaolin, and I also do Tai Chi as well. And Tai Chi is just very good for relaxation, you know, and you know, kind of getting more into the minutia of the technique, I think. But you know, same thing with our style. You know, you can dive deep into the minutia of our style if you slow it down and really think about the applications, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, our style is very broad, and you know, like a lot of other styles. So, you know, it can take a lifetime to learn. So it definitely keeps me occupied.
Okay, for sure. So what made you change to karate to go to Tai Chi or Kung Fu?
I mean, it was kind of like just random incidents, like, you know, school, the karate school I was part of kind of closed down, you know, and I was left thinking like, you know, I want to keep up with martial arts, but do I want to stay in karate? And I did what a lot of people did. I was like, got on YouTube and I found Bruce Lee, and then I saw Jackie Chan, and I realized that I want to do Kung Fu. You know, 'cause I saw all the stunts they were doing, I saw the cool like techniques, and I thought that was like just awesome. So I decided to do Kung Fu, and I'm very fortunate to have found a school, you know, in Madison, Wisconsin, where I grew up, called Jiangyi Kung Fu Association. So it's a really cool time, really great community, and yeah.
So you said you go all the way to Wisconsin to get your training.
Yeah.
How hectic is that for you?
It's pretty hectic, you know. I mean, it's like a 3-hour bus ride there, and then a 3-hour bus ride back, you know. So it's, you know, it's like I spend just about as much time in the bus as I do training, you know. So, but you know, it's nice to like.
So you go there every weekend?
Yeah, basically every Saturday.
Every Saturday you go and you come back Saturday.
Yeah, and mostly just for now because of like because we're training for our competition end of July. So yeah.
So why did you? I wouldn't say you find it, but how did you find school way out of your place where you stay?
Well, it's I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, so I moved here recently, you know. So, but it's kind of nice that even if it's a long bus ride, I can still find a way to somewhat stay in contact with like my old school. Okay. You know, so
that is nice.
And we do Zoom too, because you know, with COVID and everything, we switched to doing Zoom classes too.
So you learn Kung Fu and stuff on Zoom.
Yeah.
I mean, does that? I'm sure. I wouldn't say it's going to be easy for you, but is it difficult for beginner to learn from Zoom?
I think
since
that's
not
a very good question, and I think it can be hard because, like, you know, like anything, like when you have hands-on experience, you know, the teacher can more easily see you and more easily correct you, and you know, it really is about the teacher passing on their knowledge to the student, you know. So it's all about that nice, you know, symbiotic relationship between teacher and student. Zoom can kind of complicate that, but it's not totally impossible. But you know, like if you know, like when we're practicing in class, like in person, you know, like our Shifu, which is like the title of like teacher, you know.
So you guys call it Shifu? Yeah, Shifu. Not Sensei.
Yeah, no, Sensei is Japanese.
Sensei is Japanese. Okay, we're gonna go back to that later.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so I mean, like, you know, the Shifu can walk around and like correct the students and like get a good idea of what they're doing, you know. Zoom is a lot better for like if you're already seasoned, you know, in martial arts, then you know,
just to keep things moving and get a different perspective and learning a little bit more. I wouldn't say much, but a little bit. So have you taught anybody?
I've taught few people, you know, I mean, it's like I've helped friends, you know, I've helped, you know, I'm a pretty, like, seasoned practitioner, so, like, I help around the school,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we have instructor level practitioners at our school, which is, like, we kind of do our grading system through sashes, so there's, like, white sashes, beginner, green sashes, intermediate, red sashes, advanced, black sash, even more advanced, and then it gets onto like the kind of like legitimate instructor, which is black sash with like white tassels, all that kind of stuff. So I'm a black sash, so I haven't really kind of made it to like the teaching realm of stuff as much as like other students have, but that's something more I want to do. It's just like I'm distracted with, you know, other priorities, all that kind of stuff. But you know, we're still encouraged to reach out to other people and, you know, spread, you know, Kungfu, you know, teach other people.
Okay.
You know.
So you are highly motivated by Kung Fu.
Yeah, I think so.
How much? What do you say about Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan or either of them?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, they're both like they're both really interesting. Like just people in general. I mean, Bruce Lee really popularized Kung Fu. There's a Kung Fu's current popularity and interest among the states really owes itself to Bruce Lee. So I mean, you can't, you know.
If sorry to cut you off, but I'm not very familiar with Bruce Lee. I mean, I know by a couple of his movies where he made a cameo in Jackie Chan old movies.
Yeah.
You know, like I think Eye of the Tiger, which is one of his very popular movie. Or
I think I'm trying to think of something.
it was Jackie Chan's very old movie, which is
so
very popular.
Yeah, Jackie Chan has some movies like I'm trying to think. I should know this actually.
No, it's okay.
One of the things he's known, like a couple of the movies he's really known for are Police Story. He's also really known for Drunken Master.
Yeah.
You know, and like
Yeah, Drunken Master. My bad. Drunken Master.
And Drunken Master 2 are Jackie Chan classics.
Yes.
Police Story are also, you know, there's a Snake in the Eagle Shadow, which is an earlier one of his films.
Yes, I've seen that one
Yeah.
too. Those
And
were.
Bruce Lee has like Enter the Dragon, you know, and like a few other actually.
Yeah.
But,
I only know Bruce Lee because he had a small cameo in those movies, right?
yeah,
I don't know.
actually, Jackie Chan was a stunt fighter for Bruce Lee movies actually.
Oh.
And that's one of where he got his start when he was like very young, like 19 or 20 years old.
Yes.
There's actually a scene, I think, in like Enter the Dragon where you can see Bruce Lee like pulling on Jackie Chan's hair and like throwing him over.
Oh.
You know, so.
I
But
mean-
now Jackie Chan like is the superstar. You know. He's
Oh
all
yeah.
over the world, you know?
Jackie Chan does. He's on another level, you know.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Another reason is how did Bruce Lee died?
I think that's a good question. I think he died in a car crash. It was really tragic, especially because his son Brandon Lee, who also did martial arts film, also died, and I think he also died in a car crash.
Oh.
Which is really unfortunate.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. So technically, there is nobody's inheriting Bruce Lee.
well, Bruce Lee made the system Jeet Kune Do, and he had students in that, and those students are passing on his fighting technique lineage, basically. You know, but Bruce Lee also started out in Wing Chun, and he also did other traditional styles. But I guess, you know, this is like I'm pretty ignorant on like Bruce Lee's history, but he didn't really like a lot of the traditional styles. He thought they were too flamboyant, so
Okay.
he thought Wing Chun was better, and he made it Jeet Kune Do, which is like the most efficient style in his opinion.
Taekwondo.
Taekwondo is Japanese, but I think he might have done some Taekwondo, like, you know, a lot of other martial artists branch out, you know, Jackie Chan probably did some Taekwondo, but, you know, it's different than Taekwondo.
So I was gonna say, what's the difference between Chinese martial arts, karate, and techniques versus Japanese techniques?
Well, it's interesting, you know, I mean, I'll take this with a grain of salt, because again,
that's what Japanese is.
Kind of, you know.
Like
I mean, that's
defense
like
and
a short,
attack.
like,
Defense,
you know,
attack.
And then Kung Fu is kind of more tricky. It's like block and attack at the same time. Block and attack at the same time. It's like, you know, there's some different training philosophies. I think that has a lot to do, and maybe some of that might be cultural. You know, it's like you see a dojo. You know, it's a lot more like, you know, take your shoes off. You know, be very formal. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
You know, in a kind of a more Chinese, like, you know, Kung Fu setting, it's a little more like, I don't want to say lax, but you know, it's like you don't have to take your shoes off anytime. Like, and you usually practice with shoes on.
Okay. In Chinese techniques.
Yeah, basically. But like, you know, again, martial arts are more the same and different. Like, you know, Bruce Lee kind of once said that, you know, with only 2 arms and 2 legs, you know, you're bound to come across similarities among martial arts. I think he said something like that. You know, so
A weird request,
Yeah.
if that's possible.
Okay.
Would you be able to show some of your hand movements in this section?
In this area right now.
In this area, wherever you'll be able to move, and we can show that to people, you know, if that's possible. If not, that's totally fine.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
if you can, that'll be
Yeah, we
amazing.
can do that.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, so like a pretty common technique is chain punch, which is like you kind of, and that's kind of like a basic thing.
Like
you know?
like continuous punch.
Yeah, continuous punching. You know, where it's like, and another thing to think about in martial arts is this concept of fashion, which is explosive energy, where it's like, you know, Kung Fu is largely about efficiency. You know, how can you become the most efficient combatant? You know, so instead of like throwing all your force and energy, it's like, how can you create the most amount of force with the least amount of energy? So with Kung Fu, it's like this idea where like you don't really explode into that last punch. So it's like,
So
you know.
okay, so you built up a power, and then you go for the one full punch.
And the other thing is to think really about the breath, like breath to movement. You know, your breath is one of the most prominent sources of energy in your whole body. You know, so when you fight, you know, you want to breathe. You want to, you know.
Yes.
So
That was impressive.
yeah, maybe.
That was impressive. Now, the breath part it's pretty brand new. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more? We got 2 minutes left.
Yeah, so, you know, breath, you know, is your primary form of energy, you know, in martial arts, but also just living, you know, the kind of idea is like it's your chi, you know, and all your chi in, you know, traditional Chinese mythology, essentially, is like stored in your dantian, which is like this kind of source of energy 3 fingertips below the belly button. And that chi flows all the way throughout your body. And Kung Fu is all about harnessing that chi to the most effective use of it, basically.
So like controlling the 3 fingers under your belly button.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, you know, that's the source of your chi, and your chi flows throughout your body. You know, it's just about controlling your body, all your physiology, you know, all of your homeostasis to make just the most efficient movements, essentially, you know, for whatever the situation calls for, you know. And if you see Tai Chi, you'll see like Tai Chi push hands, you know, which is like a thing that you can do with a partner, where you're like pushing each other and then, you know, kind of sucking into each other. It's really hard to explain, but like you kind of lock
think
hands, you know,
yeah,
you do that.
push with your shoulders
Push,
and
pull,
stuff.
And it's really learning about like how you can really manipulate your body in inefficient ways, but also efficient ways to, you know, create force, and then to also absorb force. You know, that's another thing. You know, so there's all these different teaching ideas within Kung Fu and Chinese martial arts, you know, that really come together as a whole to create the whole of Kung Fu, you know.
So a last question would be, have you ever thought or got a thought for a split second that you want to, instead of trying Chinese techniques, would you ever thought about making a switch to Japanese?
I think it's important to branch out. I think it's important to keep an open mind, you know, to, you know, always, you know, stay skeptical and kind of like, you know, one of the best ways to know more about your own martial arts is to question it and to branch out and explore others, so you can hold your martial arts in relativity with others.
Yes.
You know, and that applies to not just martial arts, but life in general, you know, just keeping an open mind and being skeptical, you know. But yeah, I think again, it's like most martial arts are more similar than others, and I think the most important thing is that you find a good teacher, you know,
Correct.
a good teacher who understands martial arts just in general and what it takes to be a good martial artist, you know. So
that is amazing, man. I got to learn a lot about martial arts and Kung Fu. It was very nice talking to you. And would you like to say anything to the people?
No, this is a big surprise. This was really cool to kind of talk more about Kung Fu, you know, and you know, Kung Fu is complex and, you know, pretty convoluted. So, you know, go out there, do your own research and learn more about this really beautiful art and this really, you know, beautiful piece of history that we call martial arts, you know. So,
amazing, man. Amazing.
Yeah.
It was very nice talking to you.
Yeah.
Have a good one, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it.